Alright, so what I have here is an Hikvision panel zoom camera, and it was installed, but it actually didn't have the waterproof connector on it, like installed properly. So I'm gonna actually rewire it just while I'm not, up on a forklift. So yeah, just to remove it, it looks like it's basically just gonna be these two Allen screws on either side, unplug the cabling, and then you unplug the safety cable afterwards. So we're gonna pull this down and then go back to our workbench. Okay, here we are after a significant altitude change. So yeah, this is an Hikvision or Hikvision, whatever you want to call it. It's a speed dome. And I'll grab the model number there for you guys. DS2DE blah 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 blah. So yeah, basically it was installed without the waterproof connector on, and there's a little bit of silicone just from last time, but you can see that the pins got royally screwed up. So I'm going to be taking that end off, and I'm probably just going to use a punch down terminal, and I'll just goop that up with a bunch of silicone. Yeah, so they've been up there for, I think, a few years now. And yeah, I guess just whoever did the install on them didn't give a crap about them. So they didn't actually use the yeah, they didn't actually use the waterproofing. And so it needs 24 volts AC, so I don't have a good way to power that up on the bench. Yeah, we're probably just gonna... So I also figured I would take a look at this thing a little more in-depth too for fun while I have it here. So one of the main things I've seen is that they don't use standard Ethernet color wiring, like they use a different wiring standard, which is part of why I decided to make this video, because if they use a non-standard wiring color pattern, then having it available might be useful. Actually, that is standard wiring. Okay, so yeah, I've seen a lot of posts about this same brand cameras, and yeah, they use like totally different colors, but this actually uses standard Ethernet wiring colors, I think, right? Yeah, you got the stripy blue and the blue. Yeah, so that's all standard. That makes it super easy, actually. So why don't we go ahead, actually maybe let's fix the exposure a little bit. Where's the nice medium? That. Why don't we take a little look under the skirt and see what else is going on in here. Probably the right size. Because yeah, this thing has some clearly quite nice motors in it. So it's only 1080p, but it has a 30 times optical zoom, which is crazy impressive. It also has full 360 rotation. I'm not sure if there's like a slip ring in there or not. I'm only going to go so far. I'm not going to like strip this thing down as if I was salvaging parts out of it. But I just want to take a bit more of a look at it because, you know, unique opportunity to do so. Okay, so we have our Ethernet in connection right here. Then this is our audio connection setup. This here is our alarm wiring. And then this here is our AC input. It's odd that it's AC. Yeah, just AC, live, neutral, and then earth. And then it looks like the actual harness that goes down into the camera is smaller. I mean, obviously, yeah, the some of the other stuff could be handled out on this section. There's probably not much interesting. This is kind of big and awkward to get video of. But I just want to mainly see if there's like a slip ring in here or not. There is some dirt that ingressed, some dust, but it's overall quite good. And I mean, yeah, it seems the seal is working quite well because I'm not seeing any obvious signs of corrosion or anything. And this was up high, exposed to, I mean, outdoor storms and all sorts of crap. Who knows how long. Okay, so we've got some input protection, a nice step down, or whatever, a transformer, maybe isolation transformer for the AC power line section. Looks like we actually have a small relay here. I would expect there to be some opto isolators as well. So let's see. Oh, actually, you know what? This bridge rectifier is for the AC input for sure. So I could try powering with DC, but I have a PoE switch for my other stuff, so I'll just use that for testing. And I am guessing this in here is a slip ring. So I'm not going to take it further apart here, but that little thing there I'm guessing is a slip ring because it has 360 rotation. Although in the software in the camera, it actually doesn't rotate 360 degrees when you're going to a preset position. When you go to a preset position, it swings around the long way. I'm not quite sure why. So I think this section here, this part of the board would be handling the power over Ethernet input. Although the Ethernet, maybe not. I'm not too sure. So I'm actually probably just going to stick this back down. And it went in that way. Because, yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything else of interest on this section. So I'm going to... Yeah, see, I'm not going to go too far into this, but I do want to see what I can see. So I'm going to put this back in. So I think what I can do for sure is take the back of this off to try and take a look at the mechanisms inside. But getting to the big motor up top and seeing the other side of the slip ring might not be a bit of a tall order. Yeah, that goes right to the back. So I have shopped around on Alibaba for some like CCTV camera modules. And that looks actually fairly typical. So it's actually basically one whole big assembly with like black plastic or black metal with like a bunch of holes in it for airflow and stuff. The camera's really not showing me much in here, but it's quite a deep mechanism. And then the actual image sensor is like built into that, and then you can supply your own rear section for the actual functionality. So this looks like, yeah, so they're using a big resistor for heating, and then they have this fan in here for airflow. So this thing is heated actually, so it's going to defog the lens if, you know, in cold weather, if it gets any ice on it, it will defog. It looks like there's probably like heaters on, oh no, actually these are going to be the infrared LED modules. I haven't seen these in operation because they have lots of floodlights, but I'm assuming these are really nice long-range infrared modules as well. And it looks like this does have some shock mounting on it. Or at least some anti-vibration mounting, which would explain why it was actually pretty decent when it was zoomed in 30 times. Oh, actually, those aren't shock mounts. So you can see it's quite a chunky lens assembly. That's quite a nice visual right there. I love lenses, just the look of like big lenses like this. Very nice. Interestingly, it's not reflecting the lights as much as I thought it would. Yeah, so we have a nice deep motorized 30 times optical zoom, and then we'll have a 1080p image sensor in the back there. We have a heater to keep it warm, and then I guess it actually doesn't defog the lens out here. Although the heat from all of those infrared lights might be enough for that. Let's just carefully pop that down. And so then it is 4 big screws on this section of the dish. And that might just let us pop this out. So why don't we do that? So yeah, in theory, you could take this housing and put a different camera module in it. If for some reason you wanted a different camera module. You could upgrade that as long as the wiring was compatible with the motors and everything. Okay, so, that's kind of what I expected. So this part of it is actually driven by a stepper on a belt. So that's how they're keeping it low profile. They're actually just using a stepper motor on a belt to drive that. So that's pretty nice. And then it's just going to be a big stepper and a ring gear over on this part as well. So the wires in here are quite taut. I could disconnect it all fully, but I don't really feel a need to. It's going to be like cast zinc or something from the look of it. And yeah, it's just going to be a large ring gear with a slip ring in the middle. That's definitely the other side of a slip ring there. And then, yeah, just the stepper going around that geared wheel. And they also have a rubber seal in there, even though it's going to be facing downwards. So that's good to see. So I'm just going to line this back up. And tighten all those screws up. Oh, okay, and if your serial number sticker on the outside is damaged, there is actually one located up in here too that will be visible if you take the back of this off. Alright, so there's the bulk of our camera put back together. And I'm actually going to put the punch down connector on this separately. Just because it's so much easier to work on it off of this. Honestly, I would probably suggest, if you're taking it off of a thing, maybe pull this off just so it's nice and easy to work on, because you can put it down without it rolling everywhere. I'm going to put this on something soft so it can't roll away. And then we'll grab a punch down connector. And I can't remember what Ethernet standard wiring they're using there. Hopefully A. If not, I'll swap the ends of the cable. Or redo the punch down. I don't know. Alright, so this is going to be pretty basic if you've ever done any sort of network stuff. It's just a monoprice punch down connector. I do wish I could remember what standard they're going with. As long as it's the same on both ends, it's fine. I like to use A, but I know B is more common. So basically, if you're not familiar with this, there's two standards for the color code order for the 8 wires. There's T whatever, I can't remember the actual T65 whatever something A, and there's also the B standard. And for some reason the B standard is more common instead of the A standard, even though there's functionally no difference. I like to use A, but I know B is more common, so I guess I'll go with B. So then, you just want to make sure you have your wires on the right side and in roughly the right place. And you want to make sure you have as little untwisted wire as possible, because the twisting is part of the actual standard, and it affects the signal integrity in Ethernet wiring. So if you have a whole bunch of untwisted cable, there's going to be a whole bunch more noise. It could drop speed, you know, all sorts of stuff like that. All right, so we're going to go according to B. So I'm going to have stripy blue far back, solid blue, then I'm going to have stripy brown and solid brown. So I've got those all mostly in there. That last one is being a pain. And then I have a punch down tool. And so this is a spring-loaded device that basically you push in, and then it gives basically a spring-loaded extra oomph to pushing the wire in. So it uses that U-shaped section to push the wire in, and then that little triangular tip is a cutting blade which will cut the wire on the other side off. Or in most cases, it will mostly get the wire off, and then you have to finish it up. And then this thing also has like little hook tools for something else, I'm not really sure what. So make sure you have that blade on the right section. Oh, that one actually went through. Hey, what do you know? See, most of the time I just have it where it leaves them like dangling like that. Alright, so that's the one side done. Then we're going to take this other side. Stripy orange. Orange. Stripy green. And green. Wait a minute. Nope, that's wrong, because I was looking at A. Let me double check. I did B, right? Alright, let's switch that around. Stripy green. Green. Stripy orange. And orange for B standard. Again, yeah, you just have to have both ends of the cabling the same. And then it does not matter. Really, there's no functional difference. Yep. Pull those off. So my plan is just to goop this thing full of silicone. Just a shitload of silicone sealant, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and pop those snaps on. And I'm also going to pop the zip tie through to keep it from coming undone. But yeah, it's really not much harder than that to do a punch-down connector, unless you're in a place where there's like no slack on the cabling. Then it's a real pain. But that right there is a new female end put on the cable. So now we can actually grab the camera, start hooking it back up. Alright, so there we have a new Ethernet punch-down connector, female connector, whatever you want to call it, on the end of the cable. And it should be all set for testing. So I don't have a way to get Ethernet from my PoE switch over here, the nice like high output one, but I do have a little, like, it's not like PoE AF or AT whatever standard, but it's just a 48 volt 500 milliamp PoE adapter. I don't know if it's going to power this thing up, but we're going to see. Where's a good spot for it? Where's it going to fit? There we go. So we'll see if this thing powers up and does its little self-test. And if not, then I'll have to get it over to my Switch. No sort of power indication light on it, unfortunately. So we're just going to have to see. It does take a minute or two, I think. Well, probably just a minute, not two. Okay, so that should be in its first position for its auto patrol now. It should be very slowly moving. Although it might not be getting enough power. Well, I mean, it's been moving this whole time, right? Oh, there we go. Okay, it was still initializing. So it does the sweep not nearly that slow. I was going to say I didn't think it needed to move that slow to cover the amount of ground it needed to. So the way I configured these cameras is to do a sweep over their yard. They have one on each corner of the building. So it does a sweep of their yard, and if any interior cameras get triggered, like in their workshop, these cameras swing around to the workshop doors when the interior ones are triggered, and then if not, then they go back to their regular patrol route. So then this should keep going left right away. Yep. Nice to know this runs off a 500 milliamp adapter. That's going to be good for testing. They're also still using a shitty GeoVision switch for this, so if that dies, then I know I can use these other adapters. It probably won't work with the heater. The heater's probably going to draw more than 500 milliamps, but good enough for summer, I guess. And so I think this should go left again, and then it's going to swing around back to the original position. Oh, no, sorry, yeah, no, I'm thinking of the wrong camera. So this one, yeah, it's going to just come back around to the right twice. Oh, there you have it, a nice piece of security camera hardware. that was screwed and is now back to life without having to spend another $1,500 or more on a new camera. Yeah, I like these things. I'm a fan of like oddball stuff like this, like, you know, uncommon technology. So yeah, I'm gonna hook it up to my Switch, triple check that the data connections are good, because I actually scraped up the connections before to the point where it was powering up, but no data was coming through. So one of the data lines was broken, but not enough for power. So I'm just going to make sure that shows up in the software, maybe plug it into my camera system to make sure it feeds properly, and then we'll take it back out. Well, I'll take it back outside, get up on the end of a forklift again, and put it back up on the side of the building. I'm not going to videotape that because, I mean, that's the end of it. So, yeah. I'll fill this thing up with silicone, put the end of the cable in, do some more silicone, or some self-amalgamating tape. Actually, I think that was my plan before. So this self-amalgamating rubber tape, you just stretch it out, and then it bonds to itself, sort of like glues to itself, and it makes a waterproof connection that you can pull out that's not messy. So that's probably a better option. But yeah, hopefully that was helpful to someone. No weird non-standard things, but an interesting look inside of this big old dummy.